So I've got this canvas board here, and I'm starting with a background layer of some distress paints, and I'm just using them and randomly dabbing the colors onto the background in some areas. And once you've decided you've got enough color spread out on the background, you're gonna need a water spritzer bottle, just as large one as this one, which is like for spraying flowers and plants. You could also use like a mini mister, so one of those tiny spritzer bottles, but the large one gives me just the right amount of water. And this is getting a little messy, so you want to make sure you have enough tissue paper, paper towels on hand, and have your surface, your work surface, like covered with something, so not on your best tablecloth, okay? Then I'm just gonna spritz some of the water onto the background, and then you can see this activates the color and kind of already moves them around. And it just gives you this nice marbled effect. Okay, you can also just like move it slightly to kind of bring out this marbled effect even more, and to kind of have the colors float and blend into the areas that you want. Once you're happy with the result, just leave it as it is. This will take a while to dry because, as you can see, there's a lot of water on here. You could use your heat gun to speed up the drying process a little, and by using your heat gun you can see you can also move the colors around a little more, so you have a little bit of influence on where you want the colors to go. But if you don't want them to like mix up any further, if you're happy with the result as it is, I would just let it sit for like an hour, maybe 1.5 hours, until it is really dry, and then we can continue to work, okay? If there are some areas, like here where the white is still shining through from the canvas underneath, and you want a little more color, you can just go into the wet paint and dab in dab in some more color if you like. So that's not a problem. You can just go back in where it is necessary, and then just leave it as it is, or just add another tiny spritz of water like this, okay? So we're gonna let this sit to dry, and then we'll come back and continue. So while this is still semi-wet, semi-dry, I'm using some gold Liquitex ink. So I'm just grabbing a brush, and I'm just gonna add some gold paint splatters here to the canvas. And I'm doing this while the rest of the paint is like not 100% dry yet, because this way the gold ink slightly blends in, slightly creates this blooming effect on the background. Okay, so this is dry. Next step, I'm gonna grab a couple of paper scraps just to add them, to add a little texture and a little interest. So I just have like a piece of an old newspaper here that I might use, and I'm having some foil printed or foil embossed vellum that I want to use. And I have some tissue paper here. This is actually a tissue paper that I received some happy mail wrapped up in this tissue paper, so I'm using a piece of this. So really never throw away any any paper, no matter what kind of paper. You can always use it in your artwork. So I'm gonna collage those elements down to the canvas first, just using some Mod Podge. This is dry. In the next step I'm using some white acrylic paint here and a brayer. Just want to add a little bit of white acrylic paint here to the canvas, but I don't want like the white acrylic paint to really cover the underneath layers like completely. I just want a little bit of white texture on here. So a brayer works really well for this. And this kind of also brings all the layers a little more together. Just like that. And I have a little piece of corrugated cardstock here, which I'm just dabbing into the white acrylic paint. And then I can use this to add a little bit of texture here to the canvas as well. Just using it as like a stamp to just make some interesting marks on here. Like this, okay? Okay, so this is dry. Next step, I'm grabbing a stencil. This is a stencil by the Crafters Workshop, I think. Yeah, the Crafters Workshop. I just kind of really like the geometrical shapes, the look the stencil gives you. I'm just aligning it here. Then I have some spray paint. This is a metallic silver spray paint and a metallic purple spray paint. And usually I'm using those like outside only because it's quite smelly when you use them, and it doesn't really like smell very healthy. But I'm just giving it just a tiny bit of the spray paint, so we should be good, I guess. So just some silver and a little bit of the purple as well. Just like that. Okay. Now I better go open a window. But you can just see the result first. And this kind of gives you a really nice overall look and has this metallic shine to it, which I really love. So now I'm having a couple of pieces of some corrugated cardstock here. This is just from a cardboard box, shipping box. And I'm gonna use my distress paint dabber again. I'm just gonna add a little bit of color here just like slightly distressing it like this. And I have a quote of Buddha that I want to add to this canvas, and I have this like cardboard Buddha which came in a magazine actually that I'm subscribed to, the Happiness magazine. So I thought it would be like a perfect fit. So I'm just gonna lay out my final design here, and I already can hear a couple of you say but you're covering up all the underneath layers. You know, I guess that's the most most often asked question or comment on my YouTube videos. Why do I put like a lot of effort into the underground, into the base layers, and then I kind of add layers on top of them and they kind of get covered up? But for me that is part of the fun if you're like doing mixed media projects. And I'm not a huge planner. You know, I'm a planner girl, you know that. I love planners and I love planning. But with my art journals and mixed media work, I definitely just I start out with a basic idea or a basic color scheme or whatever, and then I just go with the flow, okay? So I don't have like a pre-designed plan in my head. So that's why I'm just going layer by layer and keep adding things and even keep covering things up, because for me that's just part of the fun. I don't want to, with my art journals and my mixed media art, I don't want to like plan too far ahead, like planning where I put something on a layer so that it doesn't get covered up in the next layer. That would kind of take away from the fun and the freedom of creating for me. You might like have a totally different opinion, and that is totally fine. You can plan layer by layer, but I just don't. I don't want that. I just love this process of layering things, of covering things up, adding things. So yeah. So just the answer before you even ask. I'm just using some gel medium here to apply those cardboard pieces to my canvas board. And it's actually not like completely covered up, the underneath layers. You can always still see parts of the underneath layers shining through. You see like the marbled background, the colored background, you see the tissue paper, the newspaper print, the vellum, the printed vellum here. So you can actually still see all the layers. They're just not like bam in your face, here I am. And for me that's just kind of adds interest to a piece. I just love that. To kind of look or take a closer look at a piece and then discover all the underneath layers and all the hidden things that you don't see like at the first sight. I just love that. So now that I have stick those down, I just want to add a little bit of black just for some contrast, and because black really makes the other colors pop. I'm using the black dilutions acrylic paint here. Always have to be like super careful with that, because it is pretty liquid in comparison to other acrylic paints. So you want to make sure that you don't like pour it all over your work. That would be like sad, right? So let me just get something out of this. I'm just adding a little bit of the black paint here. And then, again, I'm grabbing my brayer, going into the paint, and then I'm just adding a little bit of black here. don't want too much of the black, just a tiny hint that you see a little bit of the black, and that's more than enough. So I also want to add this Buddha in a little bit of a dimensional way. So I'm just using just a scrap of my corrugated cardboard here. I'm just gluing it to the back of the Buddha, and then we can place that onto the canvas. Gives you a little bit of a three-dimensional look. Again, using my gel medium. Like this. Then I'm just gonna stick that down to my canvas. And some more gel medium on top of it. So we are actually just sandwiching a piece of cardstock in between the Buddha and the canvas for a 3D effect. Like this. There goes the Buddha, but before I'm gonna stick it down, I want to slightly distress the edges here, and if I can find my black ink pad, I can do that. I can even do that. Oh, there you go. So I'm using my black Stays On ink pad here. I'm just slightly smudging it. To add a little bit of a distressed look here as well. Like this, okay? And then I'm just gonna place that onto my canvas, holding it in place for a little moment, and this will just take a little while to dry. I think I want to add some more gold paint splatters here, so I'm grabbing my brush again, using some of the gold colored ink, and just adding some more splatters also on top of the Buddha here. And usually I'm not a person who likes to combine gold and silver. For me it's actually like gold or silver, but in this case the silver, metallic silver in the background is like very, very subtle, so this is like totally fine with me using gold and silver here. And the gold just is a nice nice combination or nice match for the color of the Buddha, okay, because he's like this gold color as well. So I'm gonna let this dry again. Okay, so in the next step I've printed out a quote of Buddha, and I'm using some glimmer mist here, Tattered Angels glimmer mist, just giving it a little bit of a distressed look here, not too much because I still want like the text to be readable. Then I'm just gonna put that aside, and in the next step I'm gonna apply this quote to my mixed media canvas. Like this. And I definitely want to keep those ends here loose, because it just kind of adds a little bit to the dimension. It gives a little more of a three-dimensional look to the whole canvas. In the next step I have some deco metal gold, like gold flocks, metallic flocks, and I just want to add a tiny touch of it to the canvas, and I'm using my gel medium again. I'm just applying it in some random just some random spots here. And then I'm just taking some of those gold flocks here and just applying them to the sticky areas. This is like a little bit of a messy step or messy job, because the gold leafing foil is kind of all over the place. So you just kind of slightly apply it to the sticky areas and just let it dry. And afterwards we will get rid of the excess. Okay, now that this is dry, I'm just gonna rub off the excess gold foil here. If it's larger flakes that you're peeling away, you could like reuse them, put them back into their box, but it's quite fizzy. Fizzy, did you say that? Anyways, I don't do that. Maybe with a larger piece like this, I might put that back, but in the end it's not like real gold, right? If it would be real gold, I would definitely not throw any flake away. But in this case, it's fine with me. So, and then one last thing I want to do as a finishing touch, I want to add some white paint splatters with my white Sharpie paint marker, and this one feels quite empty, so I'm gonna use another one. Like this, and some light pink. This is also an acrylic ink, multi-purpose ink by 13 Arts. I'm just gonna add some little splatters here, little blobs, just to bring back a little bit of the pink that I initially started with in the background, okay? Like this. Alright, so I think we can call it done. Once it is dry, I'm gonna get rid of like the paper that's kind of hanging over the edges here, and I'm gonna distress the edges of the canvas board. I can do that real quick with my black ink pad to give it a little bit of a frame here. Oh, then I have to get rid of this first. Okay, so let's do it all the way. All the way through. And then I'm just distressing like the border, the edge of the canvas with my black ink pad to kind of give it a little bit of a frame here. Et voila, we're done. Our pretty Buddha. And I just love that quote. So I hope you enjoyed watching me create this. I hope you enjoyed the process. And this one actually goes to one of my lucky art friends. over on Patreon, because I'm giving away one original piece of my artwork to one of my Patreon supporters every month. Yeah, and one lucky winner will receive this original piece in the mail this month, and the others will receive an art print of this one. So a beautiful piece, the same size as an art print to hang on their wall. So if you're supporting me on Patreon, then you can already like expect something like that in the mail very, very soonish as an art print, or if you are the lucky winner, then you will receive the original piece. I will sign that once it is dry, and then off it goes. And I really love the way it turned out, and I think I definitely will sneak one of the prints for myself and put it up in my studio, because I love the quote and I love the way it turned out. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Yeah, so talk to you all soon. See you next time. Bye.